Hello, I'm Eric Mathews with StartGo, and what we're going to talk about today is customer discovery. Customer discovery is part of our three-step process by which we have all of our startups move quickly and correctly through the early phases of the startup process. The 3Ds, as they're called, consist of customer and market discovery, product delivery, and thinking about dollars for scaling. Today we're going to focus in on customer discovery, which helps us prevent the number one cause of startup failure, which is premature execution. Premature execution is when you build something that the marketplace simply doesn't want. A lot of founders believe that they've got the golden key, the magic formula, the secret sauce, and they'll end up building that product and then going to market with it, and nobody ends up buying it. And then at the end, they think that the customer is the fool, when in fact, if the founder would have just done some customer and market discovery, he would have figured out how to change or modify the product or service such that the customers were more likely to buy it. So customer discovery is a critically important process, and probably the most critical process that we have all of our founders do through our accelerator program. In fact, customer discovery is so instructive to the entrepreneurs, we can often tell which companies will succeed or fail based solely upon their work in the customer and market discovery process. So customer discovery consists of testing four hypotheses. Those hypotheses are: 1, what's the problem? 2, what's the solution to that problem? 3, what's the price or the business model under which we can actually garner revenue and cover our expenses? And 4, what is the go-to-market strategy? We'll go through each one of the hypotheses one by one. The problem hypothesis consists of identifying what are some of the costs, the pain, the trouble points, things that the customer is facing that need a definitive solution. The problem is also a great hypothesis to define because it's often the why, or the reason why a startup should exist. Remember that the why is more important than the what. And it's a great reason to wake up if you have a great problem to solve. In addition to enumerating what the actual features of the problem are, we will also ask our founders to quantify the problem in a meaningful way. So it can consist of cost, lost time, lost opportunities, etc., but no matter what, it has to be quantifiable. If it's not quantifiable, it's hard for us to direct the solution or to charge money for the solution in the end. The next hypothesis is the solution. In this particular case, we help our founders identify the 20% of the features that will satisfy 80% of the customers. This is also called the minimum viable product. Oftentimes we find that our founders want to build a whole bunch of features that are unnecessary to actually meet that minimum. And so through customer and market discovery, we want to make sure that we identify what that minimum is and what we should go to market with right away. Note that the problem and the solution hypotheses are closely matched. There should be a 1-to-1 ratio between the problem and the solution. In fact, oftentimes we'll have our founders list them side by side, where they'll say, here's a specific problem, here's a feature of the solution that fixes that particular portion of the problem, and so on and so forth. The third hypothesis is the price. The price hypothesis helps us identify a mechanism by which we can actually take the value that we're creating for our customers and monetize it in a meaningful way. The price hypothesis is closely matched to the problem hypothesis. Note that if a problem is not painful enough, the customer in the end will not pay for it. Note that problem and price are closely related. If a problem is not painful enough, somebody will not pay to have it solved. For example, if you had offered me a $100 rubber band holder, I would say, I'm good. I can use the back of a doorknob for free. That's simply not a painful enough problem for me to have solved for $100. Note that also the price hypothesis helps us uncover if we have more than one customer segment. So for instance, Facebook, as a series of customers, ourselves, the end user of the product, our price hypothesis for utilizing it is 0, which means there has to be another customer that's actually willing to pay. In this case, at Facebook, it's the advertisers. So it's important for us to note when we actually have a multi-sided platform when we're building our problems, or when we're building our startups. So it's important for us to identify that we have a multi-sided platform when we're building our startups. When we find that we have a multi-sided platform, this tells us we actually have two customers, and then as a result, we actually have two sets of hypotheses that we need to test in the marketplace. We'll talk more about testing these hypotheses in a second. The final hypothesis is the go-to-market strategy. This is the mechanism by which we get our product into the marketplace and get our customers to actually buy it. The channel phases are important to this. Channel phases is also identified in business model generation and our business model canvas discussions. But the channel phases are awareness. The customer has to become aware that they actually have the problem and that there are potential solutions for the problem. The next channel phase is evaluating, looking at the different offerings in the marketplace. Then is decision, and by which the customer actually decides to actually go with your product or service. Then there's fulfillment, and then finally there's post-fulfillment support, whereby we help the customer after the product or service is delivered, including customer care and support. These are all different phases that need to be passed through during the go-to-market strategy and help us establish a pipeline by which we can actually go about acquiring customers. The most important aspect of this particular hypothesis is understanding the routine of our customer. It is very difficult, if not impossible, to change behaviors and routines of our customers. There's really not enough money in the world that can help do that. As a result, it's important for our go-to-market strategies to actually fit the routines of our customers. So, for instance, if we were ordering pizza and wanting it delivered to our house, our current routine is being aware that we actually have this problem, making a phone call or going online, making our order, and then having it delivered to us. If a pizza company wanted us to deviate from that routine and then actually walk over to the pizza place or drive over to the pizza place, place our order, and then go home and wait for it, we simply wouldn't use that product or service or that pizza company for that matter. So it's important for us to make sure that we identify the routines and behaviors of our customers and figure out how to integrate into them. So if there means that if I'm a customer and I realize I have a problem, and my first instinct is to go online to start to conduct a search, and my product or service isn't online, then I'm not conforming to the behavior of the customer, and I will not be able to put them into our sales pipeline and acquire them. So those are the four hypotheses. We use the term hypotheses because we actually are going to conduct, hopefully, a mechanism of testing to actually verify our hypotheses.